Hi everybody. My name is Joy, as it's written over there.
Joy Miracle.
Yeah, I know, I'm all sunshine.
That is just like, yeah, you better.
Yeah.
This better be good.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've titled my presentation "Culture Clashes, Acculturation, and Cohesion." I'll explain what those are. And I just felt like that was the best way to define the two articles that I'll be exploring. And it really does explore transnational families and transnational diasporas, which was a term I got from one of the articles. Yeah. Oh, how do I go next? Okay. Does anybody know what this might depict? Yeah? Yeah? Yeah?
Is it about hybridization?
Yeah. So basically, yeah, you're right. One plant has been taken and is being connected to another plant. As you can see over there, there's that old plant and the new plant over there. So I'm going to start defining the terms that I showed you in the beginning. And I'm building a story, so please, yeah. So the first definition is culture, and I'm a big fan of etymology, which is basically like the root word of a thing. So not just the word how we define it today, but what was it originally when it started. And so culture speaks about like cultivation. And that's why I use this picture to kind of like draw us to that kind of picture of cultivation. The next word is acculturation, which speaks of assimilation. So that's like something that is foreign being brought together with something that exists or something like that. So you're assimilating, you're bringing it together. So you could kind of like link that, kind of see it as like you're bringing an old plant with a new plant. The new plant is a bit foreign to the old plant. Acculturation also kind of looks at like bringing together cultures. So say you've got like a plant that's been cultivated for a long time and another plant that's been cultivated for a long time. You take it off after being cultivated and you bring it together. It's like, acculturation. That's what acculturation is. And the last word is cohesion, and that speaks of like being united and being whole. So you're sticking together and you're adhering. You're not just like working together, or you're not just brought together, but you're actually okay as you are together. So just an overview of my presentation. I'm going to first introduce my case studies and look at, why I selected my studies. Just speak briefly on like the authors of the studies, because I felt like it brought a bit more context to the papers, and just give an overview of my study and the results. Then go into just the connections and the links, and lastly speak about what was like might be a challenge or an opportunity that I find with bringing those two papers together. So firstly, why I chose this study. So before I actually say something about this, I do come from a transnational family, but not only that, I have a lot of friends that are from transnational families. So it's something that, like, as I explored it, it was something I could kind of understand more, so not just from the papers, like analysis and stuff, but also from a kind of experiential place. And my background is in health, and one thing that really led me to choose that was not only like my background life-wise, but also career-wise. In health, I found that health actually speaks about wholeness, and I found that when I was looking at cohesion, working together, all these different people coming together in like transnational communities and families, my question was always about how whole do people feel as they are connecting. And so that's another reason I chose this. And another thing is that I really I'm keen on bridging gaps. So where like health policies, because I really want to go into health policies, what I'm doing this quiz. bridging gaps between making policies that for people to be whole, to actually implementing those things. And so, yeah, that's another reason. And then I also kind of felt like transnational communities were like, in a sense, like a metaphor for like how different people work together, but also just looking at family interactions, because I'll go into what my papers are, but family interactions are stuff that's spoken about a lot in the articles, and I found that family interaction is almost like a smaller, like a snapshot of the nation state, in a sense, where you have, kind of, I don't want to make it more very systemized of like family as a system, but like I just kind of saw the parallel between the nation state and family interactions and stuff. Yeah, I think I've kind of mentioned all these things, picture beliefs and so on. But yeah, so these are my papers: theorizing identity in transnational and diaspora cultures, a critical approach to acculturation, and satellite babies. Satellite babies are basically babies when you like have a baby and you send your baby over to other people, like surrogate parents, to raise that child, and then you send them back once they've grown a bit older. So satellite babies in transnational families, a study of parents' decisions to separate from their infants. Just a brief look at the authors. So the first study was a study that looked into Indians in America, and the authors themselves were American-based, but also of Indian origin. They had heavy their background was a lot to do with like themes in this module, like identity, culture, globalization, migration, diasporas, and all those things. But there was a lot of focus on the psychology of things, so the mindset. And it was similar on the other paper, but the other paper was more so from like a clinical health, mental health kind of like aspect, as opposed to more so like globalization. Though one of them had like history in that. And yeah, so I just kind of drew up some things that were that might be seen in the paper because of just the background. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot to mention. How do I go back? That the other paper was based in Canada. I don't know where the authors are from. I couldn't find that, but yeah, it studies Chinese community, Chinese who have just migrated into Canada. So both of them were published in 2008. The aim of the studies, one of the studies was mainly like part of a bigger study, so it was just kind of like a snapshot of a bigger study, and detailed like interviews of Indians living in America and the impact that 9/11 had on their understanding of their identity as Americans. So it looks at Americanness versus Indianness. So people that have kind of felt like, they are American, who had migrated into the nation, but after 9/11 kind of felt a bit unsure about whether they were American. The second study looks at Chinese, as I mentioned, Chinese Canadians, and these Chinese families or immigrant families would have just moved into Canada, and they're contemplating sending their child away so that they could just settle into the nation, and this study kind of looks at whether the impact on infant mental health, and the studies to kind of help the further study and research on therapy in that area. A few of these things I've mentioned, but like these were just this is just an overview of certain themes that were in the papers. An American study. So this is America, Canada, just so that we kind of remember. So in the American study, there was more of a focus on like the diaspora, the transnational diaspora. So communities, like communities of people that have all come from a different kind of nation and form like the diaspora there, but are integrated with other communities and other people from other nations. Whereas there it was speaking more so about transnational families, looking at the willingness to hinder a real connection. So you're already a part of a family, you're already connected, and they were looking at the desire to separate, whereas they were looking at more so the desire to still be connected, whether that is with one another from where they were or to the land that they were in. So it looks at four classifications of acculturation or connecting, and that is assimilation, which give me a second. Assimilation, which speaks about like you forsaking your old identity and wanting to be part of a new identity, a new community. So you're trying to make connections with people, and that was more so the case in this paper. So in this paper, the Indian community that they looked at had wanted to be part of, to be considered American. Some of the interviews, actually, you find that they did actually consider themselves to be American until 9/11, when they felt uncertain, like because of how people responded to them and saw them as, terrorists. And then it's another classification that it speaks about is like integration, where you try to be connected with the home and the host. Separation, where you separate from the host country and try to stay connected to your home country. And that was the case in Satellite Babies, the Satellite Babies study. They wanted their children to be connected to China, and so they they wanted to send their children there. And another kind of thing that they had wanted. I think I'm jumping forward, but another thing that also affected them was also just economic status. But one thing I did want to highlight here is that a quote from the paper that says the trauma of separation outweighs the potential impact of a wartime attack, and it was used to just describe like when people were going to war and they tried to protect their children by separating from them, and it just speaks about the fact that it's more important for the child to be with their family even if there is danger. Some of the things that were highlighted in the studies were that the first study looked more so at different perspectives of race, so how people see themselves and their identity. That some people saw themselves as part of a community because they saw themselves to be close to people, that perceived proximity, so closeness. Others saw themselves to be part of a community because of feelings of belonging. So I feel I'm part, so I'm part. Integration. So when people have like financial, like high paying jobs or education, they felt more part. And just an unconscious assumption. So they didn't realize that their identity was kind of like integrated, but it kind of was unconsciously, and just similitude. In the other study, you find that it speaks a lot about their perception, but more so in the aspect of their perception of what is needed for their family or what's best for their family. And they did have some assumptions that the children are going to show some behavioral problems when their child goes, when they go and they return. But they were still kind of leaning towards losing control of their like because they felt like they lost a certain level of autonomy moving into Canada. They kind of felt like they were not in a good position to parent their children. Some of the connections, I've spoken about it already, but that the perspectives, I've spoken about the connections. There's some connections in terms of like both of them look at how people see their identity and they see their need, and how their perceived need affects how they identify themselves. So if they, for example, in the Chinese study, they saw that there need to be security and safety, whereas in the Chinese study, they saw there need to be economic needs, so finances, making sure that they get themselves financially stable, and even culture. Whereas the other study they saw themselves a need for safety and security, so they tried to integrate because they felt like it's safer for them to look to be part